Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In this Book of Backgrounds video, we're going to continue on with the experiment of stencil versus mask. And this is the one I did here using the Deco Art Americana stick-on stencils, quatrefoil. And we use the stencil part on here. And my other challenge was using the Americana acrylic paint. I'm so used to using their professional line, which is the Traditions, and then the Deco Art Media Fluid acrylics. The pigment numbers are on the bottles. I can control the transparency really well with these paints here. They're super high quality, but they don't have the pigment numbers on here, and I would have to experiment to find out which ones are transparent, which ones are opaque. So I'm just winging it. So I also did a lot of layering. I did some subtraction of paint. I used modeling paste, and the experiment actually turned out really well. I was not a fan of the background when I was done with it until I applied a layer of green gold, which is the Media Fluid acrylics, and that's transparent, and then it all came together. So now we're going to work on this side. I'm going to work this way because the modeling paste takes a bit of time to dry. I already gessoed this. Okay, and I used the texture tool. And then I used a kitchen cloth and wiped everything back. So this one here is not going to be with the mask part. Okay, so it's this. So you've got the stencil pulls off, and then you've got that left over. So these are the masks. And I'm going to reverse now the colors, because if I want the sea glass to what's going to appear with the little shapes, I have to use the mask for that. So I'm going to change up the colors and see what happens. Using a clean 1-inch glaze brush. And you guys are probably going, wait a minute, what are you doing? Don't forget, we're using a mask. So I'm going to mask out the areas that I want to stay this color. This also makes it much easier for you to see how the gesso, the texture of the gesso, shows through the paint. And I'm applying this paint dry without water. Excuse me. If I add water to it, then water would sink inside all that texture, and I don't want it to. I want the paint just to sit on top. Here's a perfect example. See, it just sits on top. The peaks of the texture grabs the paint. And we might still be able to pull some of that paint back. Excuse me. I have to be very careful with this. It still has wet modeling paste. Let me just put a little bit more on there. Come on. And using the, I don't classify the Americana line as just craft paint, because it's a much better quality than what you typically call as craft paint. But this is a really good way to extend the life of your paints, like for prepping your surface, whatever substrate you're using, whether it's canvas or miniatures, wood panels, doesn't matter. But this paint is a really good way of prepping. Let's take baby wipe. Yeah, see? This works super nice. I like this. Roll that over. And I don't know if it's the paint or because the gesso had good time to dry. When I do this with the fluid acrylics, it doesn't work as nice. Could be the environment, could be the brush was just at the right dryness level. I don't know. My 10 with the Americana acrylics. Now these are their new brand. It's Made for Makers, which I absolutely love. Absolutely love that line, Made for Makers. Because it's not just about painting pretty pictures, it's creating taking something that's inside your head, just making something. But these are the first time colors for me with this. All right, I'm gonna wipe that back. Get rid of that. Do I have anything on the back? No, I'm good. So I'm working on the back of this one here. I'm gonna put that brush in water. Now I am gonna dry this with the heat gun. Will take just a sec. So now that that's dry, I'm going to come in, and I'm tempted to leave that the way it is, but I'm gonna come in now with just a little bit of the mustard seed. It's semi-transparent. I'm looking, there's a paint splotch on there. It's semi-transparent, but let's test that. Yep. Baby wipe. And I can put that on the edges. The brush is dry, did not wet it. So because I use the gesso quite textured, it does pick up just the ridges and edges. If you wanted a more fluid application, you could take your baby wipe right in your paint, roll it in, and then apply it. Okay, that's it for that. All right, let's get rid of that. Put that brush in the water. Now I don't think I've done this in this series yet. Now you're gonna see me use the number 8 Bristle Bright as a stencil brush. I'm just gonna look here, and yeah, this needs to be dried just a little bit. Okay, so now to apply the stencil or the mask, you can choose where you want to place this. I'm liking that background just the way it is. There's no rhyme or reason. I can even use the little ones. You apply them in a way that's pleasing to you. You can also layer this as well, which actually may be a really good experiment to try. Is layering them. You can do masks in multiple levels. So, yeah, that's not bad. Usually I like to create a focal point up here because that's usually a sweet spot for eye direction. There we go. And let's put one more in here. All right. So now where these masks are on, you press firmly so they're stuck onto the page. And now we can apply color, and the color that's underneath won't be disturbed. I'm going to go with Pink Chiffon. Number 8 Bristle Bright. Same way as a regular stencil brush. And I'm going to use vertical strokes because I've got the distortion going vertically. Now Pink Chiffon to me looks more transparent. But as it goes over the green, because they're opposites on the color wheel, it gets a little bit darker. But it seems to retain, I'm thinking it's probably a semi-transparent. Yeah, still retains some of its transparency. That part, oh no, I'm going to do this anyways. I was going to work with the chartreuse yellow, but no. And the good thing is when you're doing this, you can actually see what areas of the stencil you covered this stencil was sticking up. You can see what areas of the stencil you were working with. And I like having some areas opaque. I like having some areas more transparent. It just creates more interest. And one of the ongoing challenges that I have, not challenge like problem, but challenges from a YouTube fan, was challenging me to use more pastel colors. So I'm looking at this and saying, there you go. Pastel this. I love it when you guys dare me to do stuff, because it's not only keeps me on my toes to try to, you know, because I keep telling him, get out of your comfort zone, do something that's different. It lets me know what you guys want. So feel free to use the comments below to share different things you'd like me to try. Also, if you want to see more videos of experiments, you know, give me a thumbs up. And the comments, though, that's the biggie. The comments is the biggie. Okay, so we've got a good layer on there. Various levels of opacity. Had just enough paint. Get my DNA in there. All right. Let's take this off. I don't want to use a heat gun on this because these are plastic. And these can be washed, soap and water. You can, if you're going to be working non-stop on your piece, have a little container with water so you can just pop these in there so the paint doesn't dry on top. Oops. And I'm going to do another layer of masks, but I'm not going to use these ones because the paint will, there'll be two layers of paint on these, and they'll be harder to clean. All right, so I'm going to pop these in water. So looking at the piece, I actually kind of like that. You can see how the mask lets some of that stuff show through. So if we were to apply another layer, some more masks in different areas, and then there we go, and a different color of paint, what would happen? So if I applied a mask here, you know what, I just put that right on top of the modeling piece. Oh, it's almost dry. I like these little shapes here the best. Use some of the baby ones. This is a super way of layering and experimenting. Okay, so I'm going to put that brush aside. Now what I want to do is I want to apply a wash. Let's see if that works. Not a stencil, a wash. So a wash is a watered down, or you just use a transparent color, watered down version. Because now I got to keep these, well, if I use these spread like this, then yeah, well, it doesn't have to be, but I'd like to make it cohesive. But if I'm binding it this way, then it'll be like this, and then like this. Sorry for that interruption. Joe just came in with Mia and he headed back out, and then I had to wait a bit for Mia to stop crying because Daddy went out and he didn't take me with him. So I brought out some more pink chiffon because I came up with an idea. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. So I'm going to now take some of the chartreuse yellow, which I'm not sure, so I'm adding a little bit of water to that. And this will make it more uniform with the page next to it, depending on how I bind it. Okay, you know what? I'm going to bring out some modeling paste, matte medium, and that will make the paint transparent without making it watery. The problem with you using too much water, the paint actually loses its strength, kind of like everything that holds it together. Using additive, like matte medium, into the paint, solves that problem. And the paint doesn't become watery. There we go. Now I am going to have to make sure that I clean this really well because the matte medium can also be used as a glue. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So because it's building up a little bit of an edge around the masks, I'm going to kind of tap on the edges, which will pick up the excess paint so I don't have ridges of paint when I pull these up. That is gorgeous. Oh, gorgeous. Love that. What would happen? What would happen if we did the same? I love these experiments with pink chiffon. Considering pink chiffon to me is already semi-transparent, just going to use a little shader brush on that. That'll knock that one down a little bit. Yeah, this is really nice. Let's see what happens. The effect will probably be minuscule. Well, I'll wait for that part to dry then. Actually, hang on a sec. Right there. Because we've done so much layering on here, see? Now if I just put this one here, let's see what that'll give us. I should have used the fresh one. That's okay. I'm liking the chartreuse yellow better. Yeah. Yeah, I'm liking that better. So let's stick with that. And only because of this particular background, it makes it look more cohesive. But like I said, depending on which side the binding takes place, then it may not matter. Two very different looks. So if I bind it this way, then it won't matter because that'll be an independent page and then that'll be an independent page. If I bind it this way, then they'll be side by side. And this will be its own page and this will be its own page. I know myself, I want this to be a full spread, so this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Oh shoot, I put that in water. So I'm going to work on the premise that this is an independent page. Continue on with the experiment. Sometimes with the experiments, you gotta push through, even though it looks like it's the uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and I go through it all the time. I am so far from perfect. Some of these experiments I've done for the book of backgrounds, oh my God, what the heck? And I just press forward and they turn out absolutely beautiful. So I'm applying another layer of color on this to see about the transparency. Multiple experiments going on right now. Just wiping out the ridges of paint there. And what I also can do with this, which we didn't try, is how much of this paint can I actually wipe back with a baby wipe? So I'm going to leave some ridges of paint on that. I've applied a couple of layers over this corner here. So this transparency, matte medium, The Decor Medium Matte Medium for this works perfect with the Americana acrylics. And it's all interchangeable. It's all interchangeable. All right. Pop these right into the water. Oh, that's interesting. I really like that. A little bit of a scratchy scratch there. An X-Acto knife would have been better to pull these off. You can let this dry and then just use rubbing alcohol on the top to get rid of all the paint. It doesn't affect anything. It doesn't affect anything at all. It's what's underneath is important. But yeah, you can let that dry, then remove. Oops, that was still wet. And I put some music on for Mia, her calming music. Really just drowns out the silence. Okay, paper towel, and I'm just going to blot some of the edges here. There we go. Yeah, so this technique also works same as the gesso, just wiping that back. There we go. That's really pretty. We have an opaque version and we have a translucent version. The only thing that's left, modeling paste. How can we use modeling paste with a mask? So I'm going to dry this with the heat gun and let's try that next. So the binding is obviously in the middle, so I'm not going to put any here. So I'll put some here and we'll use some of the little ones. We'll overlap so we get some visual texture going on. Overlap a little square over little diamond over a flower, and overlap a flower over a square. Do some big, do some small. Oops. Yeah, that should be all right. The binding's going to be here. I don't want to have to be binding through modeling paste. We'll just do this much. All right, where are we? Modeling paste. I'm going to use a long palette knife and make sure those are pressed down. The surface has to be completely dry to do this. Okay, micro thin. And almost like buttering a cake in a really bad way. Oh, I got a little bit of, that's paint from another project. And I'm going to apply it thickly here. And apply some of it here. And overlap some of the areas again. It just creates additional texture. Oh, that darn black stuff. I'm gonna have to clean that jar. There we go. There we are. Okay. That's really neat. So when it comes time to the next phase, which is creating the actual artwork, if I were to put paint in there, it's going to actually sit inside of here. I won't be doing that. I'm going to be using very likely a wax metallic on that. And if you can, oh darn, if you can if at all possible, let these dry so you don't lose the shapes. To me, it doesn't matter because I only have one of this stencil. I want to make sure that these are clean. And although where they're flipping over, I may alter the shape of it. It's just going to be a different type of texture. Whoops. That little bugger stick there. There we go. And if you're a member of Studio Art Place, you're going to have access to all the high-res photographs of this. There we go. I use high-def photographs are included with the membership. But there you are. So that is actually wonderful. Let me clean this up. So I'm going to put this on my drying rack to dry now for the day. And that'll also flatten out. So I hope that you enjoyed this experiment and the stencil versus mask. And give it a try. I would love to see your versions of what you've done here. So please feel free to share a picture with me by email, or better yet, post it into our private Facebook group, which is a free group made up of artists of all levels. Links to both of those are on my website at artplace.ca. The link to the studio site for members is also on my main website, so you can check that out. So time for me to clean up. And the next experiment I'm going to be working with is, I saw a video that was posted about 4 years ago about pressing paint through 2 sheets of glass. So that's going to be an interesting experiment. So I'm going to try that one. So until I see you in the next video, stay inspired.